Our next contestant, Doug Holmes. The best decision. The best decision, Doug Holmes.
Thank you, Mr. Contest Chair, fellow Toastmasters, and guests. There are decisions that will alter the course of your life. And then there are decisions that will determine whether or not there is a life to alter. Take, as an example, the decision made by Joseph Dittmar on September the 11th, 2001, when he found himself on the 78th floor of the South Tower of the old World Trade Center in New York City. He had actually started the day on the 105th floor, where he and his fellow employees had been ordered to evacuate the building using the stairs. The stairwells on the old World Trade Center didn't go all the way from top to bottom. At certain floors, you had to get out and change to another shaft. When Joseph Dittmar and his friends got out on the 78th floor, they had a full view of two very critical things. First of all, they had a full view of the horror that had struck the North Tower that morning. The flames, the smoke, and the enormous hole with a jet plane landing gear clearly visible in it. But there was another important thing. In the South Tower, the elevators were working. So someone in the group said, well, why don't we just take the elevator? And this is the decision that Joseph Dittmar faced. He looked at the burning North Tower, he looked at the crowd of people waiting for the elevator, and he made his decision to take the stairs. He and the friends who went with him were several floors below when kaboom! The building shook so violently they thought the stairs would separate from the wall. And they smelled aviation fuel. They knew right then in their confined stairwell that what had happened to the North Tower had now happened to the South Tower. What they didn't know in that enclosed space was the South Tower was actually hit worse, because right before impact, the plane that went into the South Tower banked so steeply, those wings full of jet fuel were spread across 8 floors, from the 77th floor up to the 85th floor. And the people waiting for an elevator on the 78th floor did not have a chance. They did not survive. But Joseph Dittmar and his band of stair climbers, they survived. They continued their trek downward, exited the World Trade Center before the South Tower collapsed. Years later, in an interview, Joseph Dittmar said, the decision that day to take the stairs, that's the best decision I will make for the rest of my life. Well, this dramatic story got me thinking, what are the best decisions in my life? I might have time to give you my top 2. In 1978, I knew I wanted to get married, settle down, have a family. I had dated a woman named Susan off and on for 7.5 years. The relationship was more off than on because she was older, she was divorced, she had 3 children by her first marriage. And in 1978, those 3 children were teenagers. Folks, I didn't like teenagers when I was one. But in 7.5 years, I hadn't met any other woman that I got along with the way I got along with Susan. I decided to ask her to marry me. She said yes. Now there is a life-altering decision. I wasn't ready to be the stepfather to teenage girls. We had some conflicts and struggles. And I suspect every marriage has its share of disappointments and heartaches. We certainly had ours. But Susan and I had love, real passionate love for 44 years. That decision to ask Susan to marry me, that was the second best decision in my life. One of the heartaches we had was in regards to the children we wanted. We had decided we wanted at least 2 of our own. And a couple of years after we were married, we had our first child. And it worked the way we expected it to. We did what parents do, and 9 months later, had a baby. Seemed easy to me. We expected the next one would be just as simple, and we were very disappointed. Susan she suffered a series of miscarriages. And the final miscarriage was when she was 40 years old. Now, she was ready to go again, give it one more go. And I thought, we need to make a decision. Have to consider one more heartbreaking miscarriage? And what about the possibility of a complication if the pregnancy actually goes to term? Complications to the mother and the child when a woman gives birth after the age of 40. But I considered the health of my wife and decided, well, in July of 1986, at the age of 41, Susan gave birth to our second child, a healthy baby boy, no complications to mother or child. Of course, now that baby boy is a grown man, 36 years old, successful engineer, smart, good-looking, charming, takes after his mother. But critically to me, he is the one adult in the world who understands me, and I understand him. But as close as we are, he was closer to his mother. She had relished her role as a new mother in her 40s, and those two were so tight. And the day we had to tell the family that she was going to die of pancreatic cancer, he cried. I'm happy to have a son who knows when it's appropriate for a man to cry. Susan's gone now. If she could be here with us, I'm sure she would agree with me that the decision to try one more time, to give it one more go, the decision that led to the birth of our second son so that he has a life now and he can make life-altering decisions, that decision was the best decision I will make for the rest of my life. Mr. Contest Chair.